The Galactic Council chamber stretched across 3 kilometers of polished obsidian, its crystalline walls reflecting the bioluminescent patterns of 1,000 different species. Ambassador Zekthara of the Vorthan Empire adjusted his ceremonial armor as the ancient chimes signaled the beginning of another mandatory integration session. For the past 50 cycles, these sessions had become increasingly routine: locate primitive civilizations, assess their value, and either integrate them into the galactic hierarchy or mark them for controlled development. Today's session focused on a small blue world in the Outer Rim territories, a planet the inhabitants called Earth. The species designation read human in the galactic database, and their technological assessment ranked them barely above the threshold for first contact protocols. Zekthara had reviewed the preliminary reports with mild interest. Chemical propulsion, primitive nuclear technology, and a fractured planetary government system. Standard primitives, nothing remarkable. The floor recognizes Speaker Velnaris of the Archaeological Division, announced the Council's AI overseer, its voice resonating through bioacoustic translators embedded in each delegate's communication apparatus. Velnaris, a tall crystalline being whose body refracted light in mesmerizing patterns, rose from the designated speaking platform. Her species, the Lumand, had served as the Council's primary xenoarchaeologists for over 2 millennia. They possessed an uncanny ability to assess civilizations based on minimal data fragments. Honored delegates, Velnaris began, her translated voice carrying undertones of scientific precision. Our survey teams have completed their analysis of the Sol 3 system. The human species demonstrates typical mammalian social structures with expected technological development patterns. Their planetary infrastructure shows signs of industrial advancement, but their military capabilities remain limited to surface-based conflicts and rudimentary orbital mechanics. She gestured toward the massive holographic display that materialized above the chamber's center. Earth appeared in stunning detail, its blue oceans and white clouds slowly rotating as data streams scrolled alongside. Population density maps highlighted major urban centers while resource extraction sites blinked in amber throughout the continents. Current population stands at approximately 7 billion individuals, Velnaris continued. They have achieved basic space travel but remain confined to their immediate planetary system. No faster-than-light capabilities detected. No evidence of quantum manipulation technology. Their communication methods rely on electromagnetic radiation, which our survey teams have been monitoring for the past 2 local years. General Kraxos of the Hegemony Defense Force leaned forward from his designated position among the military observers. His species, the Thraxians, had evolved from predatory pack hunters and maintained their aggressive instincts even after achieving spacefaring civilization. Their scarred exoskeletons and razor-sharp appendages served as constant reminders of their violent origins. What about their military response capabilities? Kraxos inquired, his voice carrying the characteristic clicking undertones of his species. Our integration protocols require assessment of potential resistance factors. Velnaris manipulated the holographic display, zooming in on various human military installations. Missile silos, naval vessels, and aircraft formations appeared in miniaturized detail. Their weaponry consists primarily of chemical explosives and primitive nuclear devices. Total nuclear arsenal estimated at approximately 10,000 warheads, with yields ranging from tactical to strategic levels. However, their delivery systems lack the precision and range necessary to pose any threat to our integration fleets. Pathetic, muttered Council member Yixandra from the Trade Confederation. Her species, the Quantari, had built their civilization on economic manipulation and resource extraction. They viewed military might as crude and inefficient compared to economic domination. Such primitive beings would provide minimal value to our trade networks. Their resource extraction capabilities appear elementary, and their manufacturing infrastructure lacks the sophistication necessary for meaningful contribution to galactic commerce. The chamber filled with the multilingual murmur of agreement as dozens of species voiced similar sentiments. The translation matrix worked overtime to convert various forms of communication, chemical signals, electromagnetic pulses, gravitational fluctuations, and traditional audio into comprehensible formats for each delegate. High Chancellor Mordain, the ancient leader of the Council whose species had achieved spacefaring status over 10,000 years ago, raised one of his forearms to request silence. The chamber immediately quieted, as his authority remained absolute in all matters of galactic governance. The preliminary assessment appears straightforward, Mordain stated, his voice carrying the weight of millennia. Standard Integration Protocol 7 seems appropriate. We shall transmit the customary notification of pending integration, establish observation posts throughout their system, and begin the standard 50-cycle preparation period. Any objections? The silence that followed indicated universal agreement. Integration Protocol 7 had been used successfully on over 300 primitive worlds during the past millennium. The process was refined, efficient, and had never encountered significant complications. Very well, Mordain continued. Ambassador Zekthara, your empire shall oversee the integration process. Prepare your fleets for deployment to the Sol 3 system. Standard observer protocols apply minimal interference until the integration period concludes. Zekthara stood and offered the traditional gesture of acceptance, crossing his primary arms across his chest while extending his secondary arms toward the High Chancellor. The Vorthan Empire accepts this responsibility with honor. Our integration fleets will establish positions within the next 10 cycles. As the session concluded and delegates began filing out of the chamber, Valneris approached Zekthara with apparent concern. Her crystalline form shifted colors slightly, indicating emotional uncertainty according to Lumand behavioral patterns. Ambassador, she said quietly, there is one aspect of the human assessment that troubles me. Zekthara paused in his review of the integration protocols. Speak freely, Valneris. Your species has an exceptional record for identifying potential complications. During our communication monitoring period, we detected an unusual pattern in human transmissions, she explained, her light refractions becoming more agitated. They appear to be aware of our survey activities. Impossible, Zekthara replied immediately. Our stealth technology renders our vessels undetectable to primitive sensor arrays. No species at their technological level has ever identified our survey operations. Nevertheless, Valneris insisted, their military communications contain references to unidentified aerial phenomena and anomalous radar signatures that correspond exactly to our survey flight patterns. Moreover, they have begun implementing what they call deep space monitoring protocols that seem designed specifically to detect approaching vessels. Zekthara considered this information carefully. The Vorthan Empire had conducted hundreds of successful integrations, and their military doctrine emphasized thorough preparation and overwhelming force. However, they had also learned through experience that underestimating primitive species could lead to unnecessary complications. Even if they possess some limited detection capability, Zekthara concluded, their response options remain severely constrained. They cannot escape their planetary system, and their military technology poses no threat to our vessels. We shall proceed with standard protocols while maintaining enhanced surveillance. There is another matter, Valneris added reluctantly. Our analysis of human cultural patterns reveals an unusual psychological trait. Unlike most primitive species, they do not appear to possess submission instincts when confronted with superior force. Their historical records show consistent patterns of resistance even when facing overwhelming odds. Cultural defiance is common among primitive species, Zekthara dismissed. Once they witness our technological superiority, rational self-preservation typically overrides emotional responses. The integration notification will provide them with clear evidence of our capabilities and peaceful intentions. Unknown to the Council delegates, their assessment contains several critical errors that would prove catastrophic in the coming cycles. The human species had indeed detected their surveillance activities, but not through primitive radar or optical systems. Human quantum physicists had achieved breakthroughs in subspace field detection that the Council's xenoarchaeologists had failed to identify. Moreover, humanity's response to the discovery of alien surveillance had been neither panic nor submission, but rather the immediate implementation of the most ambitious military preparation project in their species' history. Dr. Sarah Chen, director of the newly established Terran Defense Initiative, stood before a gathering of Earth's most brilliant scientific minds in a facility buried 3 kilometers beneath the Gobi Desert. The chamber contained representatives from every major nation, their previous political differences set aside in the face of an existential threat that transcended national boundaries. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Chen began, her voice echoing through the reinforced concrete chamber. Our quantum detection arrays have confirmed what we suspected for the past 18 months. We are under active surveillance by an advanced alien civilization. Our analysis of their observation patterns suggests they are conducting a comprehensive assessment of our planetary capabilities and resources. General Rodriguez, the newly appointed Supreme Commander of Unified Earth Defense, stepped forward with a classified briefing tablet. His weathered face showed the strain of months spent preparing for a conflict unlike anything in human history. Based on the surveillance patterns and technological signatures we've detected, Rodriguez explained, we estimate contact will occur within the next 2 to 3 years. Their technology far exceeds our current capabilities, but our scientists have made remarkable progress in developing countermeasures. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, lead researcher for the Advanced Propulsion Division, activated a holographic display showing technical schematics that would have seemed like science fiction only months earlier. We've successfully reverse-engineered several technologies based on subspace field analysis of their observation vessels. Our new fusion pulse drives can achieve approximately 15% of light speed, and our quantum communication networks now extend throughout the outer solar system. Most importantly, added Dr. Elena Volkov from the Weapons Development Division, we've developed what we're calling quantum disruptor technology. While we cannot match their apparent energy output capabilities, we believe we can interfere with their quantum field manipulations, potentially disabling their faster-than-light travel and defensive systems. The assembled scientists and military leaders listened intently as each division presented their progress. In less than 2 years, humanity had achieved technological leaps that should have taken decades or centuries. The threat of alien contact had unified their species in ways that no previous crisis had accomplished. There's one more thing, Dr. Chen added grimly. Our psychological analysis of their surveillance methods suggests they view us as primitives to be catalogued and controlled rather than equals to be contacted. Every indicator points toward forced integration into some kind of galactic hierarchy rather than peaceful first contact. Then, we'll show them that humans don't integrate quietly, General Rodriguez stated firmly. Our fleets will be ready. Meanwhile, in orbit around Jupiter, the first human deep space monitoring station detected the arrival of advance elements from the Vorthan integration fleet. The massive vessels, each stretching over 5 kilometers in length, emerged from faster-than-light travel with the casual confidence of a species that had never encountered meaningful resistance from primitive worlds. Admiral Sarah Mitchell, commanding the monitoring station, watched the alien vessels take up positions throughout the outer solar system. Their formation suggested a blockade designed to prevent any human vessels from leaving the system, while their positioning indicated preparation for systematic planetary bombardment if resistance developed. Send the alert to Earth Command, Admiral Mitchell ordered her communications officer. Phase 1 is complete. The aliens have arrived, and they're positioning exactly as our analysts predicted. As the quantum communication burst raced toward Earth at instantaneous speeds, Admiral Mitchell permitted herself a grim smile. The aliens had made their first critical error. They had assumed that humanity would react to their arrival with fear and submission rather than cold, calculated preparation for war. The integration fleet had arrived to claim another primitive world, but they were about to discover that Earth had spent the past 2 years preparing for the most asymmetric military conflict in galactic history. Humanity had been ignored during the sessions, dismissed as typical primitives, but they were about to demonstrate why underestimating human ingenuity and determination was a mistake that species only made once. Admiral Zekthara stood on the command bridge of the flagship Hegemony's Will, watching tactical displays that showed the complete deployment of his integration fleet throughout the Sol system. 47 vessels formed a perfect containment formation, their positions calculated to prevent any human vessel from escaping while providing comprehensive orbital bombardment coverage of Earth's major population centers. The integration notification had been transmitted according to standard protocols 3 local days earlier. The message, broadcast on all electromagnetic frequencies the humans utilized, contained the customary explanation of galactic law, the benefits of peaceful integration, and the consequences of resistance. By now, every primitive species in galactic history had responded with either immediate surrender or desperate but futile military posturing. The humans had done neither. Admiral, reported Navigation Officer Clixandra, her secondary eyes focused on the sensor arrays, we are detecting unusual quantum signatures throughout the inner system. The readings don't match any known primitive technology. Zekthara moved to the central command platform, his 4 arms working simultaneously across multiple control interfaces. The tactical display expanded to show the entire solar system, with their fleet positions marked in blue and detected human activity highlighted in amber.
Specify the anomalies, he commanded.
Multiple quantum field disturbances near the fourth planet, what they call Mars, Clixandra replied, her voice carrying undertones of confusion. The signatures suggest active faster-than-light communication networks, but that should be impossible given their assessed technological level. More concerning, added Tactical Officer Vren Ko, we're detecting approximately 30 vessels moving throughout the outer system. Their propulsion signatures indicate fusion-based drives operating at significant fractions of light speed.
This contradicts our intelligence assessments.
Zekthara studied the display with growing unease. In 3 centuries of integration operations, he had never encountered a primitive species that possessed interplanetary vessels capable of meaningful tactical movement. Most barely managed orbital capabilities by the time first contact occurred. Perhaps our xenoarchaeologists underestimated their development timeline, he concluded. Regardless, 30 primitive vessels pose no threat to our fleet. Continue monitoring and prepare to transmit the final integration deadline. Unknown to the Vorthan commander, those 30 vessels represented only the obvious elements of humanity's defensive preparations. The real threat remained hidden throughout the asteroid belt, where human engineering teams had spent 18 months converting captured asteroids into mobile weapons platforms using technology derived from alien surveillance data. Captain Maria Santos commanded the stealth platform designated Achilles Station, a hollowed-out asteroid that had been equipped with quantum disruptor arrays and fusion pulse missile systems. Her crew of 47 represented some of Earth's most skilled military personnel, all volunteers who understood they were embarking on a mission with minimal survival probability. Passive sensors show the alien flagship approximately 800,000 kilometers off our starboard bow, reported Lieutenant Commander Jackson, his eyes focused on displays showing energy signatures that would have been incomprehensible to human science only 2 years earlier.
Quantum disruptor arrays are charged and ready, added Chief Engineer Petrov. We've confirmed target lock on what appears to be their primary faster-than-light drive system. Captain Santos nodded grimly.
The plan was elegant in its simplicity and terrifying in its implications. Human scientists had identified a critical vulnerability in alien technology. Their faster-than-light drives required precise quantum field manipulation that could be disrupted by focused interference patterns. Disable their FTL capability, and the alien fleet would be stranded in the Sol system, forced to fight at sublight speeds where human numerical advantages could potentially offset their technological superiority. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Sarachin stood in the primary command center of the Terran Defense Initiative, watching status displays that showed defensive preparations across every inhabited continent. The past 72 hours had seen the largest military mobilization in human history, with every available resource dedicated to the coming conflict.
Orbital defense platforms report ready status, announced Colonel Park from the Space Defense Division.
All satellite-based quantum disruptor arrays are online and targeting alien vessels in high orbit. Ground-based installations show green across all categories, added General Rodriguez. Every major city has been evacuated to underground facilities, and our mobile defense units are positioned according to predicted orbital bombardment patterns. Dr. Chen studied the strategic displays with the cool analytical mindset that had made her one of Earth's premier physicists. The aliens possessed overwhelming technological advantages in terms of energy weapons, defensive shields, and individual vessel capabilities. However, they had made the critical error of assuming human military doctrine would follow patterns established by other primitive species.
Dr. Tanaka, she called to the advanced propulsion specialist, status on the deep strike squadrons?
Final preparations are complete, Dr. Tanaka replied, his face pale but determined.
All 12 squadrons are positioned in stealth orbits throughout the outer system.
Each squadron consists of 25 vessels equipped with quantum disruptor missiles and fusion warheads.
They'll remain undetected until the primary assault begins.
The human strategy violated every principle of conventional military wisdom. Rather than concentrating their forces for defensive operations, they had dispersed 300 vessels throughout the solar system in small, highly mobile units designed for coordinated surprise attacks. Each vessel carried experimental weapons that might or might not function against alien technology, operated by crews who had volunteered for what amounted to suicide missions.
Incoming transmission from the alien flagship, announced Communications Officer Torres. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Put it through, Dr. Chun ordered. The chamber's speakers crackled as translation algorithms converted the alien communication into comprehensible English.
The voice that emerged carried undertones of authority and impatience.
Attention, inhabitants of Sol 3. This is Admiral Zekthara of the Vorthan Integration Fleet. Your species has been selected for peaceful integration into the Galactic Council hierarchy.
You have 48 local time periods to acknowledge your acceptance of integration protocols and begin the transition to galactic citizenship.
Failure to comply will result in the implementation of forced integration procedures. Any response? Asked General Rodriguez.
Dr. Chen smiled grimly.
Broadcast this message on all frequencies, to Admiral Zekthara and the Vorthan Integration Fleet. Humanity rejects your integration protocols. We will not submit to alien domination. If you wish to claim Earth, you will have to take it by force. This is our final communication. The transmission ended with deliberate finality. Throughout the command center, human officers watched displays showing alien fleet movements as the Vorthan forces began repositioning for orbital bombardment operations. Signal all units, Dr. Chen commanded.
Operation Prometheus begins in 30 minutes. Aboard the Hegemonies will, Admiral Zekthara received the human response with a mixture of anger and disbelief. In 3 centuries of integration operations, no primitive species had ever dared to explicitly reject galactic authority. Fools, he muttered, his primary arms working across tactical control interfaces. They cannot possibly comprehend the forces arrayed against them. Admiral, interrupted Tactical Officer Vren Ko, we're detecting multiple launches from human installations throughout the inner system. Approximately 250 missiles, fusion-powered, heading toward our positions. Zekthara studied the tactical display with professional interest. The human missile barrage represented impressive coordination for a primitive species, but chemical explosives and even primitive fusion weapons could not penetrate Vorthan defensive shields.
Activate point defense systems, he ordered calmly.
Eliminate the incoming missiles and prepare to begin orbital bombardment of major population centers.
Perhaps watching their cities burn will convince them to reconsider.
The Vorthan point defense systems activated with characteristic efficiency, filling space around the fleet with precisely directed energy beams that began intercepting human missiles at maximum range. However, as the defensive systems engaged their targets, Admiral Zekthara noticed an anomaly that would prove fatal to his understanding of the tactical situation. Sir, reported Navigation Officer Clixandra, her voice carrying new urgency, the human missiles are not following ballistic trajectories. They appear to be maneuvering independently and approaching from multiple vectors simultaneously.
Impossible, Zekthara replied immediately.
Primitive species lack the computational technology necessary for such coordination. Before Clixandra could respond, the first wave of human quantum disruptor missiles reached optimal range and detonated. Rather than producing conventional explosions, each missile generated focused quantum interference patterns specifically designed to disrupt alien field manipulation technology. Throughout the Vorthan fleet, faster-than-light drives went offline simultaneously. Defensive shield generators flickered and failed as their quantum field matrices collapsed. Artificial gravity systems malfunctioned, sending alien crew members floating helplessly through their command centers.
Report!
Zekthara commanded, struggling to maintain his position as the flagship's gravity fluctuated wildly.
All FTL systems offline, Clixandra announced, her voice distorted by equipment failures. Defensive shields are inoperative.
Primary weapon systems show severe power fluctuations. Sir, we're detecting massive energy signatures throughout the outer system. The tactical display, still functioning despite system failures throughout the ship, suddenly filled with hundreds of new contacts. Human vessels emerged from concealment behind asteroids, moons, and gas giant radiation shadows, their fusion drives blazing as they accelerated toward the crippled Vorthan fleet.
Impossible, Admiral Zekthara whispered, watching human forces converge on his position from every direction. They're primitives. This shouldn't be possible.
Captain Santos felt her asteroid platform shudder as its concealed fusion drives engaged for the first time since installation. Through her command center's viewports, She could see the massive alien flagship drifting helplessly in space, its once pristine hull scarred by quantum disruptor detonations and its defensive systems clearly offline.
All weapons charged and ready, reported Chief Engineer Petrov. We have clear targeting solutions on their primary reactor cores. Fire everything, Captain Santos ordered. Throughout the solar system, 300 human vessels opened fire simultaneously. Fusion pulse missiles streaked through space toward crippled alien vessels while quantum disruptor beams continued to interfere with any attempts to restore defensive systems. The carefully planned ambush was unfolding exactly as humanity's strategists had predicted. But Admiral Zekthera, despite his shock at the primitive species' unexpected capabilities, remained a seasoned military commander with 3 centuries of combat experience. As human weapons began impacting his fleet, he realized that the aliens' greatest advantage lay not in their technology, but in their vast experience with asymmetric warfare.
All vessels, he broadcast on emergency frequencies, initiate Contingency Protocol 9. Prepare for extended system combat operations. The order would fundamentally change the nature of the conflict. Rather than a quick integration operation followed by withdrawal, the Vorthan fleet would now attempt to establish permanent control over the Sol system through sustained military action. However, Admiral Zekthera could not have known that humanity had been preparing for exactly this scenario. As alien vessels throughout the system began implementing their contingency protocols, they were unaware that human deep strike squadrons had spent the past 18 months studying alien behavioral patterns through captured surveillance data. Every tactical doctrine, every standard response, every contingency protocol had been analyzed and countered. The battle for Earth had begun, but the outcome would depend not on technological superiority alone, but on which species could adapt most quickly to a form of warfare that neither had ever experienced before. The Battle of Sol had been raging for 6 local days, and Admiral Zekthera finally understood why the ancient military texts warned against underestimating primitive species. His integration fleet, designed to overwhelm resistance through technological superiority, was being systematically destroyed by an enemy that refused to follow established patterns of primitive behavior.
Fleet status report, he demanded, gripping the command platform as another human missile barrage impacted the hegemony's will.
Navigation Officer Clixandra consulted her displays with visible distress. 12 vessels destroyed, 18 severely damaged and combat ineffective. Our remaining operational ships number 17, but all are experiencing critical system failures due to ongoing quantum interference. The humans have established what they call disruption fields throughout the inner system, added Tactical Officer Vren Ko. Any attempt to restore FTL capability results in immediate field collapse. Sir, we're effectively trapped.
Admiral Zekthera studied the tactical display showing the current positions of surviving fleet elements.
The once mighty Vorthan formation had been reduced to scattered groups of damaged vessels, each struggling to maintain basic operational capability while under constant harassment from human attack squadrons.
How many human vessels have we destroyed? He asked.
Approximately 90, Vren Ko replied. However, they continue to deploy new units from hidden manufacturing facilities throughout the asteroid belt. Our intelligence estimates suggest they possess over 800 operational vessels of various classifications. The numbers told a story that Admiral Zekthera found almost impossible to accept. A primitive species with no interstellar experience had managed to outproduce the industrial capacity of a galactic empire. Worse, their tactical adaptability exceeded that of species with millennia of military experience. Sir, interrupted Communications Officer Turnax, we're receiving another transmission from Earth Defense Command.
Put it through, Zekthera ordered grimly.
The familiar voice of Dr. Sarah Chen filled the command center, her tone carrying the confident authority of someone who held tactical superiority.
Admiral Zekthera, this is Dr. Chen of the Terran Defense Initiative.
Your fleet has suffered significant casualties, and your strategic position continues to deteriorate. I'm authorized to offer you terms for honorable withdrawal.
You dare offer terms to the Vorthan Empire?
Zekthera responded, his species' predatory instincts overriding diplomatic protocols. Admiral, Dr. Chen replied calmly, your empire made a fundamental error in assessment. You assumed we were a typical primitive species that would submit to integration after witnessing your technological capabilities. Instead, you encountered a species that spent 2 years preparing for asymmetric warfare against a technologically superior opponent. The communication continued as Dr. Chen outlined the tactical reality with clinical precision. Your faster-than-light capability has been neutralized. Your defensive systems remain compromised by quantum interference. Your fleet is outnumbered approximately 20 to 1 by human vessels specifically designed to exploit vulnerabilities in your technology. Withdrawal is your only viable option.
Unacceptable, Admiral Zekthara declared.
The Vorthan Empire does not retreat from primitive worlds. Then, you will die here, Dr. Chen responded without emotion. However, before you make that decision, you should know that our deep space monitoring networks detected the arrival of additional vessels at the edge of your communication range approximately 12 hours ago.
Are you expecting reinforcements? Admiral Zekthara's blood froze as he realized the implications.
If human sensors had detected incoming vessels before his own equipment registered their presence, it meant their detection capabilities far exceeded previous assessments. Moreover, it suggested they possessed intelligence about galactic fleet movements that should have been impossible for a primitive species to obtain.
Unknown contacts detected at system periphery, announced Navigation Officer Clixandra, confirming Dr. Chen's statement.
Multiple vessels, configuration unknown, estimated time to inter-system contact 4 local days. Admiral Zekthara terminated the communication with Dr. Chen and immediately opened emergency channels to Galactic Council headquarters. The integration of Sol 3 had become a disaster that threatened to expose critical weaknesses in galactic military doctrine. Meanwhile, aboard the human command vessel Defiance, Admiral Sarah Mitchell reviewed intelligence reports that painted an increasingly complex strategic picture. The approaching vessels were not Vorthan reinforcements but, rather an entirely different faction whose intentions remained unclear.
Analysis suggests the new contacts represent at least 3 distinct technological signatures, reported her intelligence officer, Commander Torres.
Energy output levels exceed Vorthan capabilities, which implies we're dealing with major galactic powers rather than additional integration forces.
Recommendations? Admiral Mitchell asked.
We maintain tactical superiority within the inner system, Torres replied. However, if the incoming vessels possess capabilities similar to or exceeding the original Vorthan fleet, our quantum disruptor strategy may prove insufficient against multiple opponents.
Admiral Mitchell studied the strategic displays thoughtfully.
Humanity had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. A primitive species had successfully resisted integration through superior preparation and tactical innovation. However, their victory might have attracted attention from powers far beyond their current ability to resist.
Signal Earth Command, she ordered. Request immediate implementation of Contingency Omega.
Contingency Omega represented humanity's most desperate and ambitious strategy. Rather than continuing to fight defensively within the Sol system, Earth's military leadership would attempt to carry the conflict directly to galactic space using captured alien technology and reverse-engineered faster-than-light capabilities. On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chan received Admiral Mitchell's request with a mixture of pride and terror. Humanity had proven they could defend their home system against a single galactic fleet, but the approaching vessels suggested their victory had triggered a much larger response.
Dr. Tanaka, she called to the Advanced Propulsion Specialist, status on the Prometheus project?
Final tests were completed this morning, Dr. Tanaka replied, his voice carrying exhaustion from months of continuous work. We've successfully reverse-engineered Vorthan FTL technology and improved it using our quantum field manipulation techniques. The prototype vessel Prometheus can achieve approximately twice the speed of standard galactic drives.
And the crew? Volunteers only, Dr. Tanaka confirmed.
Captain Reynolds and her team understand this is a one-way mission. They'll use the captured intelligence data to locate the Galactic Council headquarters and deliver humanity's response to the integration protocols.
Dr. Chen nodded grimly. Humanity's response would fundamentally challenge the galactic order that had existed for millennia.
Rather than submitting to integration or remaining isolated on Earth, humans would demand recognition as equals and the right to expand beyond their home system.
The implications were staggering.
If successful, humanity would become the first primitive species to achieve galactic-level technology through their own innovation rather than integration. If they failed, Earth would face the combined military might of powers that could reduce their planet to cosmic dust. As the Prometheus launched from its hidden facility on the far side of Luna, Captain Alexandra Reynolds reviewed her mission parameters one final time. Her small crew of 30 volunteers would travel to Galactic Council space carrying proof of humanity's technological achievements and a message that would shock the galactic hierarchy. Dr. Chen's message is loaded in the primary communication array, reported Navigation Officer Park. Quantum disruptor technology specifications are encrypted in the secondary storage matrix.
Engineering confirms all systems operational, added Chief Engineer Volkov. FTL drive is performing beyond design parameters.
Estimated travel time to Council space is 14 standard days. Captain Reynolds activated the ship's quantum communication link for a final transmission to Earth.
Command, this is Prometheus. We are departing Sol System to deliver humanity's Declaration of Independence to the Galactic Council.
Whatever happens here, remember that we chose our own path among the stars. As the Prometheus engaged its faster-than-light drive and disappeared into quantum space, the remaining human forces prepared for the arrival of the unknown fleets. The tactical situation was about to become infinitely more complex, but humanity had already achieved something that would reshape galactic politics forever. 14 days later, Captain Reynolds and her crew emerged from FTL travel in the galactic core region, their sensors immediately detecting the massive artificial structures that housed the Galactic Council. The site was breathtaking, space habitats stretching across dozens of star systems, connected by energy bridges and quantum tunnels that defied human understanding.
Broadcasting on all Council frequencies, announced Communications Officer Park. Message is set for automatic repeat on diplomatic channels.
The message that reached every major galactic power simultaneously would be remembered as the moment when the balance of galactic politics shifted forever to the Galactic Council and all member species.
This is Captain Alexandra Reynolds of the Terran starship Prometheus, representing the human species of Sol 3.
Your integration fleets attacked our home system without provocation and were defeated through superior strategy and technological innovation. Humanity rejects your authority and claims our right to exist as equals in galactic space.
We have achieved faster-than-light capability through our own scientific advancement. We have developed quantum manipulation technology that exceeds your current capabilities. We have proven our ability to defend our territory against galactic military forces. Humanity offers peaceful coexistence with all species that recognize our sovereignty. However, any further attempts to subjugate our species will be met with military force. We are no longer the primitives you dismissed in your sessions.
We are humanity, and we claim our place among the stars. The transmission included complete technical specifications for human quantum disruptor technology, detailed battle reports from the Sol System conflict, and proof of humanity's ability to reverse engineer and improve upon alien technology.
Throughout galactic space, the reaction was immediate and unprecedented.
For the first time in galactic history, a primitive species had not only resisted integration but had demanded equality with their technological superiors.
High Chancellor Mordain convened an emergency session of the full Galactic Council within hours of receiving the human transmission.
As delegates from 1,000 species gathered in the crystal chamber, the implications of humanity's achievement became clear to all. The humans have accomplished something we considered impossible, Mordain announced to the assembled delegates. They have achieved galactic-level technology independently and proven their military capabilities against our finest fleets. We must decide whether to respond with overwhelming force or recognition of their sovereignty. The debate that followed would reshape galactic civilization. Some species demanded immediate military action to crush human resistance before it inspired other primitive worlds.
Others argued that humanity's innovations could benefit all of galactic civilization if properly integrated.
However, the deciding factor came from an unexpected source.
General Kraxos of the Hegemony Defense Force stood to address the assembly with obvious reluctance.
Honored delegates, he began, our military analysis indicates that humanity's quantum disruptor technology represents a fundamental breakthrough that could revolutionize galactic warfare.
Any species that possesses this technology can neutralize our current fleet capabilities.
The humans have offered to share this technology in exchange for recognition of their sovereignty. More importantly, added a new voice from the chamber's highest platform, they have demonstrated something far more valuable than technology. They have proven that innovation and determination can overcome technological disadvantage through superior strategy and preparation. The speaker was Chancellor Valneris of the Archaeological Division, whose species had originally assessed humanity as primitive and unremarkable. Her admission of error carried significant weight with the Council. Perhaps, she continued, it is time to reconsider our integration protocols entirely. The humans have shown us that primitive species may possess capabilities we cannot detect through standard assessment procedures. The vote that followed was closer than anyone expected, but ultimately decisive. By a margin of 57%, the Galactic Council voted to recognize human sovereignty over the Sol system and invite humanity to join the Council as an equal member rather than an integrated species. The message reached Captain Reynolds and her crew as they prepared for what they assumed would be a one-way journey home. Instead, they found themselves appointed as Earth's first ambassadors to galactic civilization, tasked with negotiating humanity's entry into a community of species that had previously dismissed them as primitives. 6 months later, Ambassador Sarah Chen stood in the same crystal chamber where humanity had been discussed and dismissed as unremarkable primitives. The irony was not lost on her as she addressed the assembled delegates of the Galactic Council. Humanity accepts membership in the Galactic Council with the understanding that we join as equals, not subjects, she declared. We bring our innovations in quantum field manipulation, our experience with asymmetric warfare tactics, and our commitment to defending the sovereignty of all species. In return, we ask only for the right to expand peacefully beyond our home system and the guarantee that no species will ever again face forced integration without the right of refusal. The proposal that followed would become known as the Chen Doctrine, establishing the principle that all species possess the inherent right to refuse galactic integration and that technological advancement alone did not grant the right to subjugate other civilizations. Admiral Zekthera, who had somehow survived the Battle of Sol despite the destruction of most of his fleet, found himself reassigned to the new Department of Asymmetric Warfare Studies. His mission, analyze humanity's tactics and develop new strategies for dealing with species that refused to follow standard patterns of primitive behavior. As he reviewed human battle records in his new office aboard a council station, Admiral Zekthera reflected on the lessons learned from humanity's unprecedented resistance. The greatest error had not been underestimating their technology, but rather underestimating their determination to fight for their freedom regardless of odds. Humanity had been ignored during the sessions that determined their fate, dismissed as typical primitives who would submit to integration like countless species before them. Instead, they had arrived with fleets beyond imagination, not just in terms of numbers, but in terms of innovation, tactics, and sheer audacity. The galaxy would never again make the mistake of ignoring Earth. Humanity had claimed their place among the stars not through submission or integration, but through the oldest and most reliable method known to their species. They had fought for their right to exist as equals, and they had won. In the years that followed, the phrase pulling a human became galactic slang for achieving victory against overwhelming odds through superior preparation and unconventional tactics. Species throughout the galaxy began studying human military doctrine and technological innovation methods. Most importantly, the integration protocols that had subjugated hundreds of primitive worlds were reformed to require consent rather than submission. Humanity's resistance had not only secured their own freedom but had established principles that would protect countless future species from forced assimilation. The primitives had become teachers, and the galaxy was a freer place because of their refusal to submit quietly to a fate others had chosen for them. Earth had been ignored in the sessions that decided their integration, but they had answered with fleets that carried more than weapons. They carried the revolutionary idea that freedom was worth fighting for, regardless of the odds.